So jQuery is a JavaScript library that allows you to add different kinds of effects and interactivity to your websites. And it's quickly becoming one of the most popular ways to add effects. It can be very similar to Flash, and in some places it's actually overtaking Flash, replacing Flash. So that's what we're going to be working with. So it's a library, which means that you download jQuery and you have that library in your website. And then the code that you write just references things that's in the library, which is the JavaScript, and it's a lot easier code to write than if you were trying to write JavaScript by itself. But what we're actually going to start off with in this week, your first introduction to jQuery, is a plugin. So with the plugin, you get the library and you get more information. So there's really not that much code that you have to write, very, very little. So this is a very kind of easy introduction to what you can do with jQuery. And I'm here on the web page, and you can just see a little example of run code and that kind of interactivity where the pop-up window just got larger. I'll refresh the page. That's a sort of kind of animation effect that you can do with jQuery. So looking at the worksheet from Blackboard of this week, the first thing I ask you to do is to go to this address here. Oops, I took too much of it. And to download the jQuery plugin. So let's do that. I go there. And this is the page that has the jQuery Lightbox plugin. And if you wanted to explore this page more, you could. You could see examples and how to use and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to go right for the zipped file. And I'm going to save it and download it. And then I'm going to unzip it and open it up in Dreamweaver. So I have now downloaded and unzipped my jQuery Lightbox plugin, and I defined my site in Dreamweaver as the Lightbox, and I also downloaded the Gallery 2 from Blackboard and unzipped it and added it to my site. So now I'm working from a defined site, which is in my NetArt folder, and I'm calling this Lightbox. And these are all of the folders except for Gallery 2 that came with what I downloaded. So we're going to start looking at what's in this download. It came with an index page, which is really helpful because that allows us to look at the code and to rebuild some pages ourselves. So the first thing we're going to do is to switch over to the code view, and let's take a little look at what we have here in the code. I'm going to start right here where it says the script type, so in this top section up here. What this is saying is to a browser that this page uses JavaScript. And specifically, there's a source, there's a JavaScript file that you should read from, you meaning the browser, that is within a JS folder, and this is the name of the file. And then we have another line of code that says again, script type you are JavaScript, and where are you located? You're located in a folder, and this is your name. Now if we go over to this JS folder, which is what's being referenced here, we open it up, we can see that the first two files are the files that are being referenced or linked right here at the beginning of our page. So this folder is included when we download it, and it's very important that you keep all of these files here for the Lightbox to be able to work. The next line of code says that to the browser that this is using CSS, and specifically you will find the CSS in a folder that's called CSS, and to look for a file that is jquery.lightbox.0.5, or that's always going to change depending on the version you have. So if we open up the CSS folder, here's the CSS file that is being referenced on this page as well. So this folder, the CSS folder, we'll talk about what that does in a second, and the jQuery folder both have files that are being referenced or attached or linked to our index page. The next bit of text to look at here in the code is this script type. So what we have here from script type all the way down to our closing our closing script, this is really the only section of code that you're going to be editing, at least in the beginning. So this section here is the actual jQuery, and what it is it's pulling up a function, which is JavaScript language, and it's saying anything that has an ID of gallery. Now, why do I say ID? Because remember the syntax of a pound sign is how you indicate an ID. So this is really a div with an ID. Anything that has any div that has an ID of gallery, apply this jQuery lightbox to it. And so if we look down here at the way this page was structured, this page does have a div with an ID of gallery, and that's what has our images in it. So first we're looking at the CSS, which is controlling everything, and we can see that this is just the CSS specifications for the div with the ID gallery, and then we have an unordered list in it, and then we have list items, and then we have specifications for images within the unordered list, and then specifications for when you roll over, you hover over the images. And down here in our body tag, you can see the opening tag for the div with the ID gallery, and that our images have actually all been made into a list items. Now, if we look back here, you would never know that they're list items, and that's because they followed a similar procedure to what we did last week. They didn't float them. They did take off the style, and they added some other attributes to those list items. But what they did is they did something called display inline. And when you display inline, it is pretty much the same thing as floating to the left. So that's why these list items are presented horizontally instead of vertically. So we're just looking down here in the body, and so again, we can see that this is all a div with the ID gallery, and here are the specific images, and they all have links within our div. Okay, now I just want to come back over to the folders here, and just to finish going through the folders. So we saw in our JS folder we have the JavaScript. We can look at some of those pages. So this is what is attached for you and that you do not have to write. It's just a sample of what some of these pages look like with all the JavaScript. So this is what's controlling and making that lightbox. So my suggestion is don't try to go in and edit it. Just make sure that that folder is included in your website. Then we have the CSS folder, and that's what this is doing, is it's really controlling the way your lightbox effect looks. So this is the color and the overlay. Most of the time you're not going to want to alter this page as well, but if you don't like the way your lightbox looks and you want to change its background color or something, you would come in and alter it in the CSS page. The Gallery 2 folder is just the folder that I included from Blackboard, and that's going to have some images that you can use for creating your own lightbox. In their folder for images, what these are actually are the little images that you're going to see on your lightbox, and they're important to include. Let's just do a quick preview here of the lightbox so we can talk about them. So when this comes over, oh, it looks like I've changed the background color to red on this one. I have a previous, this is an image, and over here is next. This is an image, and the close. These are all images. So that's what we're seeing here in this folder. So that folder needs to be included. The photos folder is just for this little example here, but once you're actually working on your website, you could delete this folder. I would suggest always keeping the index folder just because, or the index file, just because you're going to want to copy the code from there. Okay, so that's what is downloaded and included in this plugin, and now let's create our own lightbox.